everyone. So, just coming in to talk below deck med. Hopefully, this sounds okay. I'm doing this on my phone today, and I'm hoping that I can get this out to you sooner rather than later. But um, gonna be busy. Then I'm recording this on a Thursday. We were busy, kind of starting this afternoon, kind of thing, into Friday. So there probably won't be any episodes coming your way until I'm gonna try over the weekend, but definitely next week. Is a little slower on episodes this week, but definitely working on them. So you should be getting them soon enough. But without further ado, let's get into the reason that we are here. So below deck, kind of just gonna go over some things. Not gonna go over every little thing, um, because I think that the biggest thing here is the food. But we'll get to that in a very quick second. So I guess the first thing that I wanted to kind of quickly talk about is Ellie, maybe not feeling appreciated by Aesha. Now, as we have all kind of seen throughout this season, as well as Aesha has definitely talked about the fact that she has a lot of weight on her. She's doing a lot, managing all the people or, that is working for her, as well as doing her job and not being able to get a break. And I think she's starting to lose her temper with Ellie because, you're supposed to be kind of the more reliable one and she's not. And I think honestly, I think Aisha is just at her boiling point at this point. I think she just really wants and needs a break. And Ellie's just kind of feeling unappreciated and kind of being like, I'm working so hard, why is she getting on my ass like this? And it's like, well, you're not as experienced as I think you want us to think you are. And we know that you're not. Now, I realize that I actually got the season that she was on incorrectly. I thought it was last season. It's actually 2 seasons ago. So I completely forgot that. It was actually, I think she had come on for, I don't know if she stayed on or if it was just for a short time when Kyle got hurt. If you remember when he fell down the stairs. So that was with Natasha, Natalia, Kyle, and Kyle got hurt. So, and I was on a completely different boat than this one. So I completely got that incorrect. My apologies. But we know how green she was then. And that was maybe 2 years before. So, like, I don't know why she thinks that she has all this experience when she really doesn't, at least with this caliber of a boat. But yeah, so I was kind of seeing that. And throughout the episode, we're seeing how many hours it's been since Aisha has had a break. And by the end of that particular night, I think it would have been the night before they were leaving, the guests. It would have been, I believe, 18 hours since she'd had a break. That's a lot on a person. I can't imagine constantly being alert mentally, especially for 18 hours to do a job. There's going to be burnout. And even like Captain Sandy says at one point in the episode, towards the end of the episode, I believe she's like, one of these days you need to sit down and actually eat a meal, because she doesn't do that. That's horrible. The only time she ever eats something sitting down is on after a charter, and she's eating ramen. That's it. So yeah, I feel for her. And then kind of just to finish up with interior a little bit here before we get to the good stuff. Bree, my girl, sweet, sweet Bree, as Aisha puts it, how can I trust my laundry stew to get the laundry together if she herself is losing her own clothes? How did she misplace her own black dress that she needed for the night portion of the charter. Like how does that happen? Oh, Brie, poor thing. Anyway, so there's kind of that with interior. There's not a lot with exterior per se. They seem pretty okay. The only thing that I want to talk about with exterior that irked my brain is Ian. Ian basically sending a group text to his team saying, I need my 10 consecutive hours or 8 consecutive hours or whatever he said of sleep. So with that being said, I'm going to start at 10 while the rest of his crew is getting up and doing everything else while he gets his 8 hours. Sir, Aesha can't even get a break, and you as a bosun can't even get your shit together? I would love to have 8 hours sleep during a work week. I don't. It's 6. I function on 6. If you want me alert and bushy-eyed and or what's the term? uh Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, then I need my 8. But I don't need my 8 to function. Then again, I'm not doing the same work he's doing, but I feel like he's not even doing it, everyone else is. But who am I? Anyway, so that's kind of the only thing that irked me about exterior this week. Now the big thing that's going to kind of combine with the next big thing, and we'll talk about that too. That kind of goes back to interior. We're kind of in interior, obviously, with the chef, but we're gonna kind of go from him back to interior a little bit towards the end, and then we'll be done. So the big thing, Jono, and the food, not so good. The big thing that he does, the big absolute no is he serves the woman raw fish or raw seafood when she could die. Now she explains, and I didn't quite understand, I don't know exactly what this is, and I don't know how they could have figured this out, but I don't want to know necessarily how they figured this out. But they found that she has like, I guess like over the appropriate amount of iron in her body. And I guess what can happen is, I guess if she eats fish or raw seafood or seafood in general, it like something I guess would happen and she would die. Now, in her preference sheet, it was said that she can't have it or she doesn't eat it. I can't remember the proper terminology, but not that she could die. That part I don't remember being in the preference sheet, but that is apparent. But either way, if a person is saying they can't eat X, Y, and Z, or they don't want X, Y, and Z, that should just be respected and not given to them. But he gave it to her. Um, so she's like, it looks really good, but I can't eat it because I could die. And of course, at this point, Captain Sandy comes out and says, how's the food? And everyone's like, well, the ones of us who could eat it, we like it. But of course, the one who can't comment and says, well, I can't eat it because I will die. So she says, well, that's unacceptable. I'm going to take that plate from you. And she goes to Jono and she's like, so you gave one of the guests raw fish and she can't eat it. She could die. And he's like, oh no, really? That's it? Not a, oh shit, I'm so embarrassed. Let me, let me rectify this. Let me cook her some seafood or something so she can have an appetizer, like something. You know what I mean? Like try to rectify it. Actually act like you care. Because it didn't feel like he cared. That's the biggest thing about Jono. I like him generally speaking, but it's like in these moments, we're going to see another moment. He doesn't care. It comes across like he doesn't care. I'm not saying he doesn't. I think he does. It's just like, I don't see it. So when he's like, okay, I'm going to go address it. And he goes to her and he says, "I'm so sorry. That was, an error, whatever." And he's like, "I promise everything else is cooked." So everything else goes smoothly. Nothing else goes wrong this night with the food. She's able to eat everything. Everyone likes the meal. But of course, Captain Sandy's like, "This is a fireable offense automatically. This isn't like giving cold eggs. you know, this is death. This is death. And the last thing you want is someone dying on your watch and on someone else's property." You know what I mean? So it's like Disney. You literally just want to like take them out and just be like, "Nothing to see here." You know, it's oh man, it's so it is careless on his part. However, she says it's a fireable offense, and she's like, "I'm calling up Norma," or she texts Norma, and she's like, "I need a chef ASAP." Listen, Isma, I know we have 2 charters left. I really feel in my gut that it's gonna happen. I still think Dave is coming back. I really do. I believe that in my heart of hearts. He's coming. I feel it, y'all. I know you feel it too. We all feel it. Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of what happens with that. The next day now they're doing a 25th anniversary dinner for the primaries. They had a good day out in the water because they were able to get out. The weather was good. It was great, right? All was fine. So they come back, they have fireworks, and then we're going to start dinner. So, first course was fine. They did calamari and it was cooked. And Captain Sandy's like to Aesha, "Can she eat calamari?" "Yes, if it's cooked, Sandy, yes." I mean, I don't eat calamari, so I would not know any different, but I thought it's a different name when it's raw, but I don't fucking know. I don't know. I don't eat that. Um, but yes, you can eat both ways, but it's cooked, so we're all good here. She's fine. So she's like, "Okay, great. I'm gonna go to bed." So she goes to bed and we're gonna leave this here for now. And so I can hear my bird in the background. The mic picks up a little more on my phone than it does. So you're hearing his highs. So back to it though. So everything goes good. The next course, all's well. More seafood. It was king crab, so we're doing great. Then the dessert course. Now, apparently on their preference sheet, which I kind of do vaguely remember, they were kind of asking for creme brulees, souffles. They're asking for the kings and queens of desserts. I don't I don't know if I've ever had a souffle per se. I've had like a lava cake souffle type thing, which is, whatever. Still good. I've definitely had creme brulee. Just oh, I don't know what took me so long to have a creme brulee, but it's phenomenal. So these are the kind of things that they're asking for. And personally, from what I understand, especially with creme brulee, well, honestly, with both of creme brulee or souffle, they're hard things to do. And I feel like he doesn't feel confident doing like a creme brulee or a souffle because he doesn't have the culinary experience to do so. For those people who watch like Hell's Kitchen, Master Chef, or any of the cooking shows, any cooking show where they do like a creme brulee or a souffle, it's so much work involved in that. It's not easy. And I couldn't do it. And I'm an amateur of the highest degree. And he probably is too. So, I mean, he's an amateur in most cooking stuff. Baking is an art that not everyone has. But again, if you've gone to culinary school, you might acquire it. Anyway, so he decides instead of doing the beauties of creme brulee or souffle, he does a cookie with ice cream. He gets he gives these people a dessert that you can get at Applebee's or Jack Astor's. I literally had a dessert just like that at Jack Astor's. It's good. You can get a cookie ate my brownie and it's so good. But that's not the kind of dessert that you would get at a high-end type situation, fine dining. You go to like a steakhouse, well, what we have, I don't know what they have in the States, but here we have the Keg in Canada, and that's where I've had a creme brulee, and it was phenomenal. It was the best thing I have ever eaten in my entire life. And that's the kind of dessert you would expect at quote unquote fine dining, even though the Keg's not really fine dining, but it's finer because it's expensive. So yeah, it's just a cookie with ice cream. And the thing is that Aisha, she sees it, she's like, this is what you're serving, a cookie. And he's like, yeah, I thought it looks good. She's like, okay. So she goes and she gives these people the cookie and ice cream. And she couldn't even fake her way through this. She's like, here I have this cookie, um, and I swear she wanted to say this cookie thing. And she's like, yeah, we got this cookie, it's got it going on kind of situation. And the primary is like the woman, she's just like, it's a cookie with ice cream on it. And she's like, I know. She's like, I'm not eating that. And I think her husband didn't eat it either. Some people did. And you know what? I would still eat the hell out of that cookie, but I understand them. And I'm 100% on their side. This isn't about them being snotty or bougie or anything like that. Because they seemed very nice, these people. And I don't think it has anything to do with that. You have an expectation. I don't want to go on a super yacht and get a cookie and ice cream dessert that I can literally get at a restaurant in my everyday life. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I don't want this. So I totally get that. So she goes back to Jono with one cookie dessert and she's like, yeah, she's not impressed. And he has the nerve of all nerves to be like, really? What do you mean, really? Would you want to eat a cookie and ice cream dessert, sir, on a super yacht if you were a guest on it? No. I mean, maybe, but no, you're gonna still complain about it. I'm gonna eat it and complain about it at the same time, but I'm gonna eat it and I'm gonna enjoy it because it probably did taste good. But it's just like, what? What do you mean, really? And she's like, it just doesn't give fine dining. They're kind of hoping for like a creme brulee or souffle. He's like, oh, I just didn't have time for that. But he's like, they don't like, I mean, the cookie probably is not homemade by any means, but he's like, the ice cream is, the caramel, the something about the crumble was as well. And it's like that, oh God. Okay, so fine. You made homemade ice cream. That's not hard. I probably could figure it out too. That's not hard. A cookie that you probably called Applebee's for can make that happen. Like, seriously, did you skip the dishes to get get some cookies from Applebee's? Like, it's so stupid. Anywho's, he's like, oh, they just put me in a mood. Your food put them in a mood, sir. Anyway, they're gonna go to bed because it is what it is. So really, there's not much else to really say about that, like the food at this point or the guests or anything. Because again, they seemed lovely. They were really good. personality-wise with what happened here. They couldn't get off deck for most of the time. They only got, like, maybe a day out on the water. They were really good. They almost got d they almost flooded, over on the streets of Greece, and it wasn't great. But they're lovely. And they gave a $25,000 tip. That's incredible. Now, I do wonder if they would have given more if the food was a little better. Who knows? Anyway, and they didn't call out the dessert either. I found that shocking. I thought they would. So then Sandy says to Aisha, "Come over here, let's talk. How was dinner last night?" And Aisha's like, "Well, they liked the food, but then the dessert happened." And she explains about the dessert. And Sandy's like, "Yeah, no, I get it. I'd be upset too." She's like, "Thank you." Now, there was a conversation, I think, prior to this, I think it was the day before, where she did mention, since that cabin's now kind of figured out and leaked free now, which I actually didn't even talk about that. I'll talk about that quickly in a minute. Um, Not really much to say. They fixed the leak. It is what it is. We're happy. We're going to clean the room out so we can get a stew in there. So that's what's going to happen. And Aisha's like, "Oh, that's amazing." She's so happy. I would be too, though, with this poor girl not being able to get a break. I'd be crying. I'm surprised she didn't. So, yeah, so you're getting a stew. Stew is coming. We're doing great there. So anyway, back to Jono. She says, "All right, Jono, to the bridge." And we're all like, "Ooh, he in trouble." And just before Jono gets up to the bridge, does she not get a text? And before she got the text, she said, "I'm firing him today because you, first of all, serve a mediocre dessert for a 25th anniversary. And then not only that, you served raw fish to someone who could have died. That alone is the reason I'm going to be firing him." But then she got that text from Norma. Norma just delivering all the bad news. And Norma's like, "Yeah, so there's no chefs available right now. And all you gotta get from Sandy in that moment is shit." And I think she said fuck after that. She's like, oh. So Jono cuts up there and she's like, "What the heck happened with dessert?" And he's like, I, you know, I thought I would be fine. And she's like, "Well, why didn't you give them anything that was on their preference sheets? Like, why didn't you do that?" And he's like, Like, did you just not know how to do it?" Like, and she's like, "You're just taking the easy route." And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, I guess that's right. Guess that's what I did." Because it it is 100% what he did. He 100% took the easy way out, mainly because the man doesn't know how to do any of this. So it was not great. Anyway, she's like, "So I should be firing you today, but I'm not going to do that." "No, ma'am, you can't do that. That's the difference." And she references the very first season that I ever watched, which I started watching it halfway through. So I didn't actually see this part, but I did know about this. She references many, many seasons ago where Matthew had to get off the boat and the crew, the rest of the crew, had to cook dinner. And she's like, "We can't do that again." "No, you can't, because these people can't even make a grilled cheese sandwich." That would be the worst thing you can do, honestly. Then again, I feel like some of these people could probably do better desserts than Jono, but that's besides the point. So we can't do that again. We need to at least have a chef. And I definitely get it. The only reason Jono still have a job right now is because there are no chefs available. And yeah, I predict one is going to become available. whether it's halfway through this charter, the next charter. And I think we're getting at least one, we're getting one charter with who I think it's gonna be. It has to be. He has to be. Anyway. The other thing that happens here, which we don't actually see, we see her coming, but we don't get really introduced to her very well in this episode, is the new stew coming aboard. And this was discussed during the tip meeting. And the tip meeting, they say, oh, that room has been cleared out now, and we're getting a new stew. And Aisha's like clapping. She's so excited. And again, I understand why she would be. She is running herself into the ground at this point. And sorry, everybody, with my bird, he literally will not stop. But yeah, she is just kind of so happy. But who isn't happy? Ellie. Ellie's like, that's unnecessary. We don't need that. Why is this happening? Aren't we not enough? No, you're not. You and Bree are not enough. Because if you were enough, Aisha would be able to take a break at some point in the 18 hours that she didn't get one. You know what I mean? That's the thing she doesn't seem to realize. You think you're doing great and you're doing all the shit. Meanwhile, Aisha isn't getting a fucking break. Do you not see that? Do you not realize that your boss isn't getting a break? You know what? I don't get her. She's so in her own world. I mean, she's not in the Joe world anymore. And her and Brie are like, we work so much better together when there's no Joe in the middle of us. Could have told you that. And yeah, did you not get it? So she is just having a fit in her room, being like, I don't know why we need another stew. Like, we don't need another stew. This is a first stew boat. You may not realize that because you weren't on the last season of this on this boat, but this is a first stew boat. We had Toomey, we had Kyle, we had Natalia, we had the what's her name? Jessica. We had her too. We had all of these people. And it's just not feasible. And even with that, we still had competent stews with Toomey, with Kyle, with Natalia that could do the job. And Jessica learned and she retained the information and she was such a different stew at the end of it. This is not that. This is not that with this poor thing. It's just not that. So the next thing that kind of happens here is like, oh no. So Aisha's like, Ian to the sun deck. The sun deck? Whichever one. One of the ones. One of the rooms where they usually do the tip meeting. And she's like, we have the new stew coming, but I think it would make more sense that you get your own room because you're the bosun, so you should have your own room. And she's like, so we're going to put you in that room that we've just cleaned up, recarpeted, fixed up and all that. We're going to put you in that room and we're going to shuffle everybody else. So that means Jono is now on his own. So Bree, do you want to go room with Jono? Are you good with that? Jono, are you good with that? Everyone's good with that. So Bree's moving into Jono's room. Then Gail is going back into her original room with Aesha. And then that means that the new stew is going to be rooming with Ellie. Yeah, no. And when Ellie hears this, she's like, okay. And she's just fuming in the best way Ellie can. She's just fuming. And Aisha can hear the whole thing and she's like, this isn't gonna go good. I know bringing on a new stew is going to change the dynamic, but like, and here's the other thing. If we have a guy coming eventually, if we had to have a new chef come in, and that is a straight bald white man from England, we're gonna have to rearrange the rooms again. You know what I mean? But I guess we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's just like, Ellie, it ain't about you. The world does not revolve around you. The sun does not rise and set on your ass. This is about the functioning of the ship as well as the functioning of your chief stew being able to function at the end of this. You know what I mean? It's just unbelievable. But anyways, that is it for Below Deck. Again, I know they're probably going to get this a little later than intended, but um, thank you for your patience with this. With the long weekend coming, it's just, a little different dynamic, but should be getting episodes to you as quickly as possible when with the weekend coming. Um, but we should be back to some sort of normalcy come next week after the Labor Day long weekend. And as well as that, I do have the bonus episode from Next Take Podcast supposed to be coming your way as well. I apologize that hasn't come yet, but you'll be getting that probably following this episode. Either following this episode or depending on what I have recorded, you will be getting that sometime in the week, next week, the first week of September. So that's the plan. And then we'll kind of get back to what we originally said, though. Either way, after this, you will still be getting 90-day HEA, finishing that up. So we will want to get that one done. Gonna get that to you next, and then we'll be doing the Bachelorette, and yeah. We're bogged down with episodes, which is why other things haven't happened. Perfect Match is still kind of in there waiting to be done. I'll get that done before the end of the year. Trust me. It's coming. But we do have Selling Sunset coming up next week. So that's going to take precedent after Love is Blind is done, which I should be able to get that done fairly soon. And yeah, once we finish up Selling Sunset, Perfect Match, hopefully I can check out Love on the Grid and see what's kind of going on there. I'm sure it's great. I see there's returning people, but we'll get to it. But otherwise, that is it for this episode. So if you like what you heard, please rate, review the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, don't forget that you can also share us with everyone in your life if you really love this. And I do want to read those reviews. I'm definitely getting 5-star ratings, but I want to read those reviews. So send me those reviews and I will read those 4 and 5-star reviews on the podcast. Also, we're on every one of your favorite podcast apps. Every one of them, including you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to either Facebook or Instagram at Reality Tea Times2. You can also find us on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit at Reality Tea Times2 Pod. We also have our email, which is at realityteatimes2 at hotmail.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And we also have our new website where you can listen to all of these episodes. You can review the podcast on there as well. You can connect with me in any way, all the stuff. It's all there. And you can find me there at www.realityteatimes2, all spelled out, .podpage.io. It's there. And don't forget, I also have my other podcast with my friend Mikkel, Next Take Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different topics. But you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps over there as well. Or you can also go to YouTube and you go to Next Take Podcast, as well as our website, which is solo.to/Next Take Podcast. So yeah, there's that, and that's basically that. And again, don't forget, if all of this information is overwhelming, we do have all of the links, everything in our show notes. But that is it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.